And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard. What time is it? It is Moscow, Idaho, Bryan Kohberger time. We have a court hearing, ladies and gentlemen. Come on in. JLR investigates Moscow, Idaho 4. We know about this terrible tragedy that occurred, and there's going to be a court hearing today. In just a few minutes, folks. Judge's YouTube channel. Come on in. Let me know your opinions about this case, this individual right here, the suspect who has been arrested in connection with the 4 college students that got brutally stabbed during the early morning hours, November 2022. And Bryan Christopher Kohberger right here. Is he or is he not guilty? We have a mixed bag of opinions on JLR Investigates. A lot of people have a lot of questions about this case, or they want to see more information and more evidence to come to that conclusion. We are currently going through the process right now with a flurry of motions filed by the defendants. Scheduling order. We got a lot going on today. We still haven't even touched the change of venue aspect of this case. I want to know your opinion, whether you feel, and this case is out of Latah County, Idaho, way up there in the northwest portion of Idaho. It's up there in the middle of nowhere. It's a beautiful area, very quiet area. It's in a county with probably about 40,000 people, not many people. What's your opinion about whether this case should be transferred to another, or change of venue, what they call it, the legal term, transferred to another jurisdiction and tried in another county, or should it stay in Latah County? Should it go to like a bigger county like Boise, Ada County, Boise, where they had the Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell trial, because their trials also got moved to a bigger population. We got a lot of people. Some people wanted to stay. Some people want to stay. I'm looking in the chat right now. Hello, everyone. I see a lot of the familiar faces. What's going to happen today? So here's what's going on, folks. So let me know your opinion, whether this should be changed, the change of venue or not. And why haven't we even gotten a trial date yet on this case? Till this day, still no trial date. They are gunning for a trial like late spring of next year, early summer. But I'm not so necessarily sure that the trial's even going to be in 2025. In my estimation, I would predict it would happen probably in 2026. There's still probably a lot of wild cards and different things that we haven't expected come into play. And we're probably going to get some shockers here if it ever goes to trial. And I've always said that it's quite a possibility that the negotiation out of this aspect would be for Bryan Kohberger to spend the rest of his life. Oh, look what we got. Oh, look what we got. We got OJ in the house. OJ is going to be watching the court hearing. OJ's been extra clingy lately. You know, whenever I go on the road to cover true crime cases, even when I go to Idaho, OJ gets extra clingy. But OJ wants to see what's up. She wants to see what's up. She's going to watch the court hearing with us. Hello, everyone. Everyone's saying, hi, OJ. Hi, OJ. We love our cats. We love our animals. JLR Investigates. Oh, speaking of animals, you know, we never even got an understanding whether, you know, that dog in, you know, Idaho, Moscow, Idaho, I think it happened at the end of October 2022. Remember the dog that got skinned? And, you know, who did that? And whatever came out of that? Does anyone ever know about the dog that got skinned? Because, you know, it's awfully close to where this terrible tragedy occurred. So what's your opinion on Bryan Kohberger? So let me show you what's going on with what to expect today, because Newsweek has kind of like a summary. Bryan Kohberger trial update. What to expect during today's hearing? What are we to expect? Well, quadruple murder suspect Bryan Kohberger will appear Thursday, just in a few minutes, folks, where a number of topics are expected to be addressed. Scheduling hearing is for June 27th, 10 a.m. Pacific. So we're at almost 1 p.m. Eastern. This hearing will be open to the public, and there will be a live stream on the court's YouTube channel, Judge's YouTube channel. What's your take on the YouTube channel? Do you like how it's going and everything like that? I personally like the cameras in the courtroom to be able to zoom in and see Bryan Kohberger's facial reactions so we can see what's going on. We want to see the facial reactions of his attorneys, the prosecution, the judge. We want to see up close. But it is what it is. We're grateful that there is at least cameras, because technically Judge could say no cameras at all. So, you know, we got cameras. The docket goes on to say that the prosecution and defense should be prepared to address scheduling dates. Will there be a trial date? Oral argument dates, pre-trial motions, any motions challenging the death penalty, expert disclosure deadlines, deadlines for pre-trial materials, jury questionnaires, witness lists, exhibit lists, and trial settings. So there's a lot on the plate today. And we could get a trial date today? Possibly. We haven't got into those, you know, supplemental requests for discoveries, the motion to compels and all that stuff, right, OJ? There has been like multiple, there she goes. She'll be back. We're going to be watching this together, but there has been multiple supplemental requests for discoveries and motions to compel. We haven't even went through all that yet. And we don't even know what's in those at all, because most of the time they are sealed. Lollipop, thanks for all you do too. And thank you for being a member. Lollipop's a member for 14 months. Very grateful. Long-term member. Keep coming back. We cover true crime 24/7, 365 at JLR Investigates. Hey, look at that. See that? My mother got me that. A little JLR symbol. I got that in all kinds of positive books, and persistence and perseverance and all types of good motivation stuff. Because, you know, we got to keep our eye on the ball here and continue to cover these cases. Kohberger is 29 years old. He's charged with 4 counts, 4 murders and burglary. Now, have you ever heard in the history of the United States of America of any suspect, if you can name one, name any suspect in the history of the United States of America who had a trial, four-time murder, charged with 4 murders, quadruple, 4 times, and got fully acquitted? Can you name a case of anybody? The only cases that I see maybe with 2 people, O.J. Simpson, 2 people. People beat murder cases occasionally, not many, but people beat, you know, a murder case. O.J. beat 2. Anyone ever beat 3? Has anyone ever beat 4? So the odds, man, he faces odds here that are probably, you got a better chance of being struck by lightning 2 or 3 times than beating a quadruple murder case. Let's be real. I don't necessarily listen to the YouTubers that somehow feel like this case is weak, but I mean, who knows? Maybe it is weak. I don't know, but I think you pretty much have a strong case. There's a lot of things we probably do not know at this time, but beating a case 4 times, quadruple murder, and seeing this guy just get released, you think that's even possible? You think that can happen? That would be the biggest. I mean, basically, you know, Kohberger would have a lawsuit, $1 billion lawsuit against the state of Idaho if he beats this case, right? Wrongful, malicious prosecution, framing the wrong guy, getting the wrong guy. What do you think? What do you think? What's going to happen? I don't know, folks. We'll see. So what else is going on with this case? Let's see. That's scheduling conflicts. There's also an interesting Fox News article that's out that I want to share with you before. We're just chit-chatting before this court hearing and drawing people in. Come on in. Come on in. We love watching our Moscow, Idaho court hearings. Earlier this year, there was a dispute between Kohberger's lead attorney, Ann Taylor, and Bill Thompson, and Judge over a survey of potential jurors from the defense. Ultimately, the judge ruled in favor of Ann Taylor. Now, my sources, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my sources. I have a lot of sources in this case that are up in that area. And they kind of tell me that, you know, we're going to let's look at the body language between Ann Taylor and Judge a little bit, because, you know, my sources tell me Ann Taylor has something on Judge. Like maybe they were hanging out together, possibly outside the courtroom, and Ann knows a little bit about Judge, and Judge might be giving her a little bit of favorable rulings that go her way. Has anyone ever got that take that maybe they know each other or had a little dealings with each other? outside the courtroom. You know, a lot of times the lawyers, the prosecutors, the judges, they fraternize and they party and hang out a little bit outside the courtroom. You know, because ultimately the judge seems like has been, I don't know, man. Ann Taylor was on the hot seat a little bit earlier, right? And Judge seems like it gave her a little bit of a free pass, right? And you know, gave her the, you know, ultimately said that they could do the jury questionnaire. Thompson said the damage has already been done. You know, the potential jurors in that area have been poisoned and tampered. So, you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens out of that. Is it appealable down the line if they keep the venue there? It remains to be seen out of that. But ultimately, I think when it comes to the jury questionnaire, I think it's going to be irrelevant anyway down the line, because ultimately, I think the case will be transferred to a bigger county. I don't even think it's coming out of Latah County, and I personally don't want it out of Latah County, and I don't you guys do too. It's better for all of us that we watch, you know, the ones that like to live stream and watch these things unfold. It's better for all of you to get, you guys would get a better feel of what's going on if this case was held in Boise. Reason being, the 5G live streaming is picture perfect in downtown Boise. It's a little sketchy unless you have Starlink or something really, you know, something really good. The cell phone service is kind of sketchy in Latah County. So, you know, somebody like me and some other live streamers that are going to be at the courthouse when he has a trial, if there's a trial, you know, we're going to be doing a lot of live streaming outside the courthouse. And I think it's important for our eyeballs to see who comes and goes out of that courthouse, right? Who arrives, who's going to testify a certain day, and who comes out and gives statements, and maybe people give impromptu statements outside the courthouse. Kim Ortiz, thank you. Marcella Chidester, we plan on covering that case later on today, by the way. So thank you for reminding me, Kim Ortiz. That's another case, the drunken granny from Michigan. We're covering that case. She's in court like literally now, or she had a court hearing. I think it was a little bit earlier. I do believe it ended, but me and Magnolia plan to share a little bit about that case, and because there was a lot of new video footage out of there, so we're going to share that. But going back to Kohberger, I think it's important to see everything, and I think in Boise it I think it's better. I think Boise would be better equipped for all of us to cover the trial there in a journalist perspective, as the viewers on YouTube, because I think you'll see more. In Latah County, the courthouse is very small, limited space. I just don't. I'm very concerned about the secrecy. I'm very concerned about Judge's ability to turn off the cameras when there's some sort of witness testimony. That's what he can do. So, for instance, if a Dylan Mortensen or a Bethany Funke or some sort of critical FBI cast member witness or something gets on the stand, technically, Judge could cut that feed off, so we don't know what's going on. But we do, as a live streamer, would be able to see who enters the courtroom and who comes, and we'll at least be able to know what's going on. So I think it's important to have that trial in a bigger setting, more that we can live stream better. So we'll see what happens with that aspect. Another thing I want to share, folks, and we're just we're just kicking it a little bit. This article by Fox News today is very interesting too. This new article that came out by Fox News says, what Bryan Kohberger's courtroom seating says about his lawyer's confidence, experts say. And they say here in this article, and it came out today, you got to read it. It says, defense attorney Ann Taylor looks scared of her client, veteran trial lawyer says. So there's a lawyer that's saying in court that Ann Taylor's scared of Bryan Kohberger. Do you buy that? I'm not so sure. She doesn't call her client. Well, she does call her client Mr. Kohberger, but she also calls him by first name basis. Like there's a little friendly approach there. Bryan. Is she scared? So in this article, it says that the defense lawyer, confident in their lawyer's client's innocence, will want to sit close to the defendant in court, playing up to their closeness for the cameras and for the jury to ease the perception of someone accused of a horrific crime, an expert tells Fox News Digital. Okay, let's start.
All rise. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Morning, everybody. Okay, let's get on the record, please. Thank you. We are now on the record. This is State versus Bryan Kohberger, CR 2922-2805. Present in the courtroom is Mr. Kohberger, represented by Ms. Taylor, and Ms. Massoth and Mr. Logsdon are participating over Zoom remotely. The state is represented by Mr. Thompson and Ms. Jennings, Latah County Prosecutor's Office, and Mr. Nye and Ms. Beatty are participating over Zoom remotely. So we're here for a scheduling order, and I think we're about 13 months from the arraignment, and I think at this point, this is my opinion, that we're getting to a point of diminishing returns, and I sent to council last Friday on a proposed scheduling order for a lot of things, deadlines, including setting the trial. And so I also have set this hearing so that we can discuss this and see kind of where everybody is. So let me start with the state. Thanks.
Thank you, Your Honor. We've reviewed the court's proposed scheduling order with the attorney team, and we are agreeable to it. It makes sense that we do the trial in the summertime when high school is out across the street and when the university is out and the conflicting activities. And the schedule that Your Honor proposes is acceptable to the state. I would note just a minor detail that June 19th is also a legal holiday. The court specified July 4th as a legal holiday. We wouldn't be able to hold trial, but
Sure.
19th as well. Other than that, we have no objection to the court's proposal.
All right, thank you. I mean, as I went through all of this, I mean, there's going to be a lot of motions, a lot of hearings, a lot of work. There already has been a significant amount of work, as we all know. And when I tried to balance this out, I do think it was it's pretty fair, balanced, and I hope realistic. So, Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Judge. Your Honor, first, I know the court has listed this as taking place in Latah County. We haven't been heard on our change of venue yet. That's to come.
Totally understand that.
So I don't want anybody thinking I'm agreeing to Latah County as all. The June of 2025, that's the time frame that we have been working towards. I am hopeful that we can come in there. We're working towards that date. I think it's reasonable to set that date. As the court's aware, mitigation is something that takes a significant amount of time. We've had that underway since the day we took this case. We continue to work that very hard. I spoke with our mitigation expert last night about this date. And there's a lot of work yet to be done, but we're still working towards that. So I think it's reasonable to set that. I just want the court to know that that's not finished at this point. That's very much ongoing, and new things are coming out that we need to follow up. But with that said, I think it's reasonable to go ahead and pick the June of 2025 as a trial date at this time.
And by the way, I think you understand that, all counsel understand that, but this is a 3-month trial. So I was calculating 2 weeks to set the jury, then 8 weeks of trial, and then 2 weeks for mitigation and sentencing. And I mean, that's a guess, but I think it's enough time for all of those things to take care of. And obviously, the last 2 weeks would only be if Mr. Kohberger was convicted. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do want to bring up a couple of issues I have with some of the deadlines. I looked this over. Our team has talked about it. I've gone over this with Mr. Kohberger. I do have a couple of concerns about the deadlines, and I'll just bring those up to the court for the court's consideration. As far as motions challenging the death penalty, and that's in right under motion practice letter A that the court has on its draft, we can have a lot of those filed by September 5th. I would note for the court that that's ahead of the state's final discovery date, and that's ahead of the state's deadline to produce its aggravation case that it will use. We can meet this September 5th deadline, but we're going to ask the court to give us a little leeway when there's something new that comes our way. If there's an amendment to a motion or a new motion that becomes relevant based on something new, we'd like a 2-week window after receiving something new to file that. But the bulk of it we can get in by the deadline that the court has asked here, and that's just not a problem.
Sure, I understand that. I mean, I looked at that. I wanted to have that early because, you know, it's a bigger question.
Yeah.
And I was aware of the Ross case. I think you had 16 motions in that case. So and so I wanted to sort of address those issues early.
Your Honor, we can definitely do that. We can address a lot of things early. We just don't want to be precluded from bringing an amended motion or a new motion if something new is filed that would have been relevant to something we've already filed.
I'm not going to prevent you from doing that.
Perfect, thank you.
And by the way, a lot of these deadlines, I mean, you can certainly do them earlier if you'd like to. I would encourage everybody to do that. Thank you.
Your Honor, then moving on, the motions in limine under letter C, the court has suggested February 13th as the date for that. I think in large part we can do some by then, but the exhibits that we'll exchange and witness lists that we'll exchange aren't due until after that. And again, I think there might be additional motions that would be relevant after those things have been exchanged. So if the court wanted to move the whole deadline so we had all of those motions in limine at once, I think that would be reasonable. But if the court wants to keep this deadline, as long as we have the ability to bring more motions in limine based on new filings, we'll be okay with that as well.
Sure. And I was also thinking about, you know, I guess experts, for example, I mean, they may have longer hearings that, you know, we're going to have to work through all of these things. I mean, this is just a structure.
Thank you. The court had listed March 14th as a trial brief date, and that is ahead of some of the other deadlines, recognizing that the trial is the innocence phase and the sentencing phase, if it happens, is the mitigation and aggravation. I would just say this is a fine deadline, but we won't be touching anything to do with our mitigation by then, if that's what the court anticipated.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
I think we, well, yeah, we had March 3rd for mitigation. I figured by then you would pretty much have that in hand.
We hope to. That brings me to the last point I wanted to talk about. The court has proposed setting a mutual exchange of aggravation and mitigation materials, and I'd ask the court to reconsider that. We will aim for our March 3rd deadline. That's our plan right now. If something changes that, then we'll come back and let the court know and talk to counsel. But would ask that the state's aggravation package be provided to us earlier than the same day as our mitigation. Should we get to that point, the state has the burden of establishing the statutory aggravators. There are some things I think I might be able to guess about how the state's going to try to present information, but I don't think I should have to guess. I think I should have that information well ahead of providing the mitigation that will be presented in response to any aggravating information that's presented by the state. So I'd ask the court to set the date for the state to produce its information much earlier than ours. The state filed its notice a year ago yesterday, and I have a lot of questions about what the state would intend to use to try to establish many of the statutory aggravators they've listed. I know I've heard the court talk about super due process in a capital case, and I think it's appropriate for us to be on notice and be provided discovery, to be provided a full range of what the state intends to use to establish those if we ever get to that point. And I think we need those ahead of our deadline for mitigation. So I'd ask the court to move that deadline up quite a bit earlier. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Thompson, do you have any issues about having the aggravation in advance for a period of time?
No, sir, as long as we will have the option, the ability to supplement that once we see whatever the defense plans to offer in the way of mitigation.
Well, I'm appreciating that, you know, with these deadlines, that we're going to have supplement all the way along. I just don't want to be scrambling around a month before the trial. We're all going to be very, very busy. And the more we can resolve certain motions, supplements, whatever we need to do, I'm trying to do this sooner than later.
Yes, sir. And that's our preference as well.
And Ms. Taylor as well.
Yes, Your Honor.
But just to make sure though, I mean, you have to do your job and the state has to do its job and I have to do my job, but I think this is a great step, okay, to set these deadlines and hearings so that we can move through this. It's going to take a while, but anything else we need to address today, Mr. Thompson?
I don't believe so. Thank you.
Ms. Taylor?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's very short and I'm grateful that everybody's working together. Thank you. Okay. Take care, everybody. We are adjourned.
All right.
Well, that went fast. One of the quicker hearings. Nothing, no arguments, no fireworks, nothing bombshells, everything like that. It looks like they're going through the process. And interesting that Ann Taylor would bring up, about the prosecution, because there's different phases in this. And, Ann Taylor talking about the mitigation and aggravating factors, if Bryan Kohberger's guilty, that would be a different phase at the end, and Ann Taylor's wanting the prosecution to present its aggravating factors on why they should seek the death penalty against Kohberger before the defense has to submit their mitigating so that the defense can look at that. Judge saying that the trial's most likely going to be 3 months. That's a long time, but it seems like we're zeroing in on June of next year. I think we're all in an agreement here. Boom, June of next year. We have a kind of, they're all in agreement. June of next year. It's good. Get this over with, right? You would think as a defendant, if you're innocent, you wouldn't want to spend any additional days in jail. Quite frankly, a lot of defendants, when they get the news that their case has been extended or whatnot while they sit in jail, they're ticked off. They're aggravated. They want to get out of jail. If you're innocent, right? Why would an innocent person want to stay in jail longer than they should, right? An innocent person wouldn't even want to spend 1 day in jail. So on, Team Kohberger, you think they would want this trial Because at that point, Kohberger would have spent over 2 years, almost 2.5 years incarcerated, right? And prosecution, a lot of pressure on the prosecution to get this trial over with. Some of the victims' families want this trial date set. They want to get this show on the road. They want to be able to, get this over with so they can move on with their lives. This is kind of holding a lot of weight on their minds and everything like that. So I think the agreement is, let's get this trial. Maybe they should have had the trial this year, but unfortunately they didn't. Let's hope no one puts out some sort of additional motions, whatever, or throws something out of there where this thing gets delayed. Bryan Kohberger, he could be there. There could be I can think of numerous things, numerous scenarios where this trial could get delayed past June of next year. Bryan Kohberger could fire his attorneys. Keep in mind, I haven't seen any friction between them yet. Some of these high-profile cases, sometimes the defendants and the lawyers are not in agreement, and then they're firing so-and-so, and then, this guy has a degree in criminology, right? Maybe he'll try to defend himself, but it seems like Ann Taylor's on board. Ann Taylor thinks he's innocent, right? Ann Taylor says he's innocent. But the article I was reading beforehand, they were saying that Ann Taylor and Bryan Kohberger, they sit a little bit farther away from each other. Is there a reason for that? Is Ann Taylor, like this Fox News article suggests, scared of Bryan Kohberger? But sometimes you see in court the defendant and the lawyer sitting right next to each other, like very, very close. They are a little spread out. So we'll keep our eye on that situation. And anything else that develops. As far as Ann Taylor, she wanted to set the record straight and say that, we're not saying we want it in Latah County. So the case could definitely, they could be asking for it to be changed to another county. Though, at the end of the day, it's up to the judge. Judge could come up with a middle ground. The prosecutor wants it in Latah County. Ann Taylor wants it in another county. The judge might say, okay, we'll keep it in Latah, but we'll bring jurors in from another county into Latah. But I just think logistically, I don't know. And what happens if something happens where we don't get that trial in June? The prosecution, Thompson, has already made clear that it'd be hard to have a trial there in the spring and the fall, winter, because of the high school next to the courthouse. There's a high school next to the courthouse and college and everything like that. So what happens if something happens where we don't get a June 2025 trial? We miss that window. It's kind of like a NASA window going up in the sky. NASA has a window of opportunity. What happens if we miss that window, or that window gets closed? Does that mean that the trial won't happen because Thompson says he doesn't want to happen, in the fall and spring and all that school stuff? Does that mean it's going to have to go all the way to summer of 2026? Because remember, folks, you get a change of venue. You could have it in Boise, Idaho in the fall, winter, spring. It doesn't matter, because there's no high schools or colleges in downtown Boise at the Latah County Courthouse that would be adversely affected like it would in Moscow. So technically, you could change the venue now and have this trial in at the end of the year, really. So we'll see what happens, but nothing very dramatic today. But we're covering this case. I'll leave it at that. We covered the Moscow, Idaho Bryan Kohberger case on JLR Investigates. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll continue to monitor the motions being filed in the case. I look at the court dockets every day, see what's filed. All I see is supplemental requests for discoveries and responses. And I think the change of venue will be the biggest one coming up. We'll see when that comes. All right, folks, JLR Investigates. Thanks for watching. Praying for the victims, and we'll talk soon. Have a good day. We covered true crime 20.